hello. Few little hiccups with Yo-Yo coming on. So please bear with. They've got no sound on the computer. So it's not looking good. Yolanda's just gone to change her device. Hopefully she will be on in a minimo. I'm no good at sending emojis. I know, Nanny Lynn. So what I'm going to do is, while we're waiting for Yo-Yo to come live, hopefully she'll get it sorted and she'll be on in a minute. What I'm going to do is, let me have a look. Got some ghost stories, so just bear with. Let's see which ones we want to do. Let's look at 7. Ooh, what are these? This wasn't organised, was it? Just bear with me. I'm trying to find... It's not working. Just bear with. Right, so I'll read you a couple while we're getting Yo-Yo to come on. So I hope you don't mind, guys, but Yo-Yo will hopefully be with us shortly. So yeah, I will start first. So we've got the White Lady. Good evening, and a quiz. So we've got the White Lady of Hurst Moncrieaux. Hurst Moncrieaux. Source and date, Mid-Sussex Times, 20th of December, 1910. Colonel Cloud Lowther, the owner of Hurst Moncrieaux, has added to the list of ghostly happenings associated with the famous 15th century castle. One night earlier this year, he saw a girl he did not recognise in the courtyard. She seemed very distressed and was wringing her hands, which he noticed were white and shriveled. He thought she might be a gypsy girl begging, but as he walked towards her, she disappeared. The colonel now wonders if she was a ghost of a young girl who tried to resist the advances of an earlier owner of the castle by plunging into the moat in a vain attempt to escape. Thereafter, Hurst Moncrieaux was believed to be haunted by the White Lady. On another occasion, Colonel Lowther says he saw a horseman in breeches and velvet jacket near the old bridge over the moat. He was himself riding at the time, and as he neared the figure, it suddenly passed right through his own horse's head and disappeared. Come on, Yo-Yo, get on, because your ghost stories are better than mine. You may need to turn this one down a bit. The Bateman story, a story of war. First publications of the story by a Welsh journalist and author, Arthur McShane. She's on. Hang on. Let me see if
Hear me.
I can hear you now, Yo-Yo. I can take myself out of the stream. Yay! We have Yo-Yo on. Yo-Yo.
Right. Oh, what a palaver.
What a palaver, but you're on. Right.
Come on.
I'm going to leave you now and go into the background.
Okay.
You do the talking.
Right. I've can't see chat. So I'm just going to start reading then. I can't see chat. I can't see comments. Actually, I wonder if I bring my phone up.
Comments.
Oh, there you are. Oh, I can see Facebook. Oh, this is exciting. Hello, Jules. Hello, Nanny Lynn. Hello, Diana. Hello, Anne. Soldier. Wi-Fi. Diana, Gillian. Lindsay, John, you're there. Hello. Because of all the palaver, I haven't managed to get Charlie out of the house yet. So not out of the house, out of the sitting room. So I was just going to remove him. I hope everyone's well. Bye-bye. Oh, what a palaver. Hello, War Dog. Jules, hi. Shall I get... Right, we've got Ghosts and Legends of Yorkshire, which I'm going to in advance say I apologise to all the natives up here from pronunciation of northern words. I apologise if I get it wrong. There's Lindsay. I can see Lindsay's comment. So is everyone sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Right. Now then, this is the South Pennines. The landscape of the South Pennines comprises high moorland cut with deep valleys, dotted with hillside settlements such as Hebden Bridge. I think I pronounced Hebden Bridge right. The weather at any time of year can be spectacular in its power, and the South Pennines are best evoked by walking a moorland trail at sunset, or by reading the works of Poet Laureate Ted Hughes, who once lived in Calderdale and wrote extensively about the land and its people. Villages remained isolated here until comparatively recently. Celtic scholar Dr. Anne Ross has said of the region, "I had failed to realise that each mill town and village was, almost to this day, largely cut off from the others and isolated. It is a treasure house of continuity. Ghosts and legends are part of that continuity." Castle Hill rises in the foothills of the Pennines and is visible for miles around in all directions. It is a deceptive hill, from the valleys looking like a towering mountain, although it is lower than the surrounding moorlands, while from the Pennine Hills it appears to be a replica of Glastonbury Tor, complete with tower. William Camden, the antiquary, wrote in 1586, "Near Almondbury, the little village, there is a very steep hill, only accessible by one way from the plain, where the marks of an old rampart and of a castle well guarded with a triple fortification are plainly visible. The remains are those of an Iron Age hill fort, known to the Romans as Commelondenum. I think it's Commelondenum. And it was this name which led some researchers to conclude that Commelondenum was the real Camelot, home of the warrior leader of Britain, King Arthur. True or not, Castle Hill has borne this legend for hundreds of years, and many others which go some way to back it up. A battle was said to have been fought here in the remote past, and archaeological excavation has discovered that the ramparts of the hill fort were burnt down, probably during a siege. Standing on the remains of the fortifications, it is easy to imagine King Arthur defending the hill against the Saxon invaders during the final years of Roman occupation. The devil is also associated with Castle Hill, having once leapt to the summit from Scar Top at Netherton, 8 miles away. The force of his leap left the imprint of his cloven hoof on the rocks at the scar, visible to this day. Once on the hill, Old Nick took to wandering the maze of subterranean caverns and passages said to lie beneath the mound, possibly in search of the legendary buried treasure, a golden cradle guarded by a great sleeping dragon, whose coils formed part of the hill itself. King Arthur is not the only mythical figure to lay claim to this part of Yorkshire. For most people, the name Robin Hood is inextricably connected with Nottingham and Sherwood Forest. His exploits as an outlaw fighting against the despotism of the rich and powerful are legendary, with thousands of people flocking yearly to the locations in that area which are connected with him. Few realise that in Yorkshire there is a valley which has an equal, if not greater, claim on Robin Hood. Robin may have been a flesh and blood outlaw to the people of Nottinghamshire, but in the Pennine Valley of Calderdale he was that and much more. Local legend also see Robin as a giant capable of enormous feats of strength, and the dale is littered with the remnants of his exploits. At Blackstone Edge of the A58 Trans-Pennine Road is an area named on maps as Robin Hood's Bed, where Robin the Giant spent many nights slumbering on the boulder-strewn moors. His days were passed on the same spot, watching for enemies and practicing his throwing skills. On one occasion, he took a massive boulder from Blackstone Edge's shattered summit and hurled it into Lancashire, where it fell to rest on Monston Edge, 6 miles away, and became known as Robin Hood's quoit. Apologies if I've got that wrong. Elsewhere in Calderdale, Robin displayed his remarkable strength by throwing a monolith into the hills above Sowerby Bridge, where it became known as Standing Stone, and was subsequently used as target practice for his other missiles. From Standing Stone itself, Robin threw a gigantic rock back across the valley to the hamlet of Wainstalls. The rock became Robin's penny stone. There is another Robin Hood's, a penny stone, a huge natural grit stone boulder high on Midgley Moor, about 2 kilometres from the nearest road. Old beliefs die hard in the Pennines, and coins can still be found on the rock. Place one there for luck and it is sure to have vanished by the following day, although whether taken by supernatural agency or a local farm child is debatable. The name may have some connection with the stones used for exchanging food for money during one of the many plagues which swept Britain in the Middle Ages, but it is too large to have been placed there by a man, and would have been a hard task even for a giant. 20 metres to the southwest is the enigmatic Greenwood Stone, boundary stone or relic of prehistoric worship. Prehistoric worship, not prehistoric worship. I'll say that again. Boundary stone or relic of prehistoric worship, its origins are lost, but its nominal connection with Robin Hood and his favourite place is obvious. Worship. Oh, I've lost my place now. About Robin Hood and his favourite place is obvious. On a clear day, the scenery here is unsurpassed, and it is easy to imagine the giant Robin striding the moors in search of sport, or perhaps just gazing at the landscape. One local tradition claims that the sun sets over the Greenwood Stone at the winter solstice when observed from the penny stone. Try it and see. The confusion in Calderdale as to whether Robin Hood was a man or a giant raises many questions which the proponents of Robin as historical figure have yet to answer satisfactorily. Was the name Robin Hood just a name given to one of England's old gods who had been suppressed by the invasion of Christianity? Was he a god or spirit who inhabited the forests and the greenwood, constantly at odds with the established order in the form of the sheriff and later the church? The name Robin Hood is thought by some folklorists to be a corruption of Hob, a Scandinavian term for a fairy, or from Robin of the Woods, an old name for the horned god. Here we go. Cernunnos. The mystery remains. So much for the mythical Robin. What of Robin Hood, the flesh and blood outlaw? Calderdale has links with this aspect of the figure too. According to the 15th century ballad, A Little Jest of Robin Hood, Robin trekked from Sherwood Forest to Clifton on Calder to make the acquaintance of Little John, who was to be his sergeant at arms in many adventures. Ironically, on his way to meet John, he must surely have passed Kirklees Priory, where he was later to meet his end in strange circumstances. The valley of the River Calder was where the mortal Robin returned to die, or, as some say, to be murdered. The true events surrounding his death are now lost in time and clothed with mystery, but all the ballads and legends agree that, being old and probably very ill, Robin made his final journey to Kirklees Priory on the eastern edges of Calderdale. According to the Sloane MS of AD 1600, this is written in Old English, he repaired to the Prioress of Kirklees, which some say was his aunt, a woman skilful in physique and surgery, who, persurveying him to be Robin Hood, and weighing an enemy, he was two religious persons, took revenge of him for her own house, and all by letting him bleed to death. This action may seem strange, but bleeding was thought to be a cure for many ills in the Middle Ages, and it is not hard to imagine Robin letting this take place if he thought it was that he would be rejuvenated. Proponents of Robin as a pagan woodland god see this account of his death as being indicative of the ultimate struggle between the old and new religions. Robin here is the dying god, triumphed over by the newly established Christianity. By the time he realised he had been the victim of treachery, it was too late, but rather that he buried at the hands of nuns. Robin marshalled his willpower and managed one final feat. Having summoned Little John by horn blast, Robin stood at the window with his support and drew his bow for the last time. Accounts speak of him turning to Little John, saying, "Wherever this arrow lands, there shall I be buried." With his strength failing fast, he fired the arrow, and then, weakened by the loss of blood, Britain's most famous outlaw died. The arrow fell some 275 metres away, a magnificent bow shot for any man, not least someone on the verge of death. Free at last from the clutches of the sheriff and religion, Robin Hood was buried in Greenwood he knew and loved, his resting place marked by a simple stone on a trackway used by the country folk he defended. But even in death, Robin was still harassed by the rich and powerful. His original gravestone, said to be an ancient standing stone, was stolen by a local knight and used as a hearthstone in his manor. However, supernatural forces were at hand, and the first morning after the theft, the knight found it had been removed from the fireplace and turned aside. This phenomenon took place 3 times, a magical number, after which the monolith was returned to the greenwood to mark the grave. The local folk held this grave in great reverence for years to come, so much so in fact that in the 19th century it had to be fenced off to prevent people from taking chippings as a cure against toothache and other ailments. There are few reminders now of Robin's last hours. The gatehouse from which he fired his last shot is uninhabited and decaying, but the grave still exists to the west of the nettle overgrown site of the priory. Surrounded by trees and dappled by sunlight in spring, it is perhaps a fitting resting place for possibly one of England's greatest heroes. Man or myth, no one will ever know the truth about Robin Hood. His memory lives on in Calderdale, and the real question is not, did he ever live, but rather, will he ever die? So that was quite interesting. I hope I pronounced all your locations properly. So let's see, Halifax. Halifax is infamous for being the only town in Great Britain to behead criminals with a guillotine, or gibbet as it is known locally. A replica of the device still stands in Gibbet Street, and criminals could be decapitated for what today would seem a minor offence. For instance, anyone caught stealing goods above the value of 13.5d, 13.5 pennies, stood to lose his head. The first documented beheading took place in 1286, and between 1541 and 1650, at least 50 people were executed in this barbaric fashion. If the theft was of a farm beast, then often the animal was attached to the releasing mechanism of the gibbet and encouraged to pull. However, victims did have a way of avoiding this punishment. If they could remove their heads just as the gibbet blade fell and escape across the parish boundary at Hebble Brook, never to return to Halifax, they were safe. Surprisingly, several people managed this feat, including one John Lacey, who foolishly returned 7 years later and was summarily beheaded. It did not pay to break the law in Halifax in those days, and the gibbet law was feared throughout the land. It became part of the thieves' litany. From Hell, Hull, and Halifax, may the good Lord deliver us, the reference to Hull being to the notorious prison there. Further to the west is the precipitous Cliviger Gorge. Flying phantoms seem to be the fashion. High above the hamlet of Lydgate looms Eagle's Crag, so named because it strongly resembles an eagle's head and beak. UFOs have been sighted hovering above this rock, and an older legend tells of a ghostly white doe seen hanging around the crag each Halloween, the result of a feud between a local huntsman and a witch. Loined Wife, one of the celebrated but doomed Pendle witches, also haunted the rock, using it as a lookout post from which to spot her victims. Sorry, I need the light. The gorge is home to the Gabriel Hounds, a spectral presages of death, which fly down the gorge and vanish into the earth near Mankin Hole's youth hostel on the Pennine Way, also on Halloween. But the most mysterious of the aerial phenomena is the gorge has to be that which policeman Alan Godfrey encountered on the night of the 28th of November 1980. Whilst searching for stray cattle on the outskirts of Todmorden in his panda car, Godfrey came across what he at first thought was an early morning bus. As he neared the object, he realised with shock that the bus was hovering above the ground. He attempted to contact his headquarters, but neither band of his police radio would work, and so, being a conscientious officer, he managed to keep calm long enough to sketch the object. His drawing shows the UFO to be shaped somewhat like a toy spinning top, with a row of windows splitting the object into two. The top part was stationary, while the bottom was spinning in an anti-clockwise direction. As he could see his headlights reflected off the object, and the trees and bushes on either side of the road being blown about by the downdraft, he concluded that this was a real solid object which could not be anything other than a UFO. As he sat watching it, considering what to do next, he suddenly found himself 100 metres down the road with no UFO in sight. Unable to explain his sudden relocation in space. Returning to the police station, he told a fellow officer of his experience, and together they went back to the spot. Although there was nothing whatsoever at the scene of the close encounter, they noticed that the road at the spot above which the UFO had been hovering seemed dry in patches, in marked contrast to the rest of the road, which was wet from the night's intermittent rainfall. Others had also seen something in the air over the Todmorden area on that night. 20 minutes before Godfrey's sighting, 3 police officers on the moors 10 miles away had spotted a blue ball of light descending into Cliviger Gorge, and a lorry driver had reported to the police a bluish-white object seen in the valley at Cliviger itself. As the story unfolded over the next few weeks, P.C. Godfrey began to recall snatches of a previous hidden memory. He remembered getting out of the panda car at one point, and also hearing a voice inside his head intoning, "You should not be seeing this. This is not for your eyes." A short period of time was also missing from his account of the event. Eventually, almost a year later, Godfrey underwent hypnotic regression by a consultant physician and psychiatrist who knew nothing of the UFO encounter, only that the police investigators wanted Godfrey to be taken back to that date and time. In this and subsequent hypnosis sessions, the police constable revealed that in the missing period of time, he had been beamed aboard a UFO where he met a tall, robed man who telepathically informed him his name was Joseph, together with 8 small, robot-like entities. The videotape of Godfrey undergoing these sessions is emotive and frightening, and clearly rules out a hoax. As the alien Joseph approaches, he touches Godfrey with his hands, and Godfrey's last word is black. A physical examination seems to have taken place then before Godfrey was deposited back to his panda car. Alan Godfrey has never claimed anything other than the initial sighting of the UFO and states, "I never consciously claimed to be abducted. What I said under hypnosis is a mystery to me, but the last word must go to Dr. Jaffe, who conducted some of the hypnosis sessions. Something very mysterious has happened to this man. I am as mystified as anyone else. Few visitors to the Pennine Dales can or should avoid a visit to Haworth. Despite the increased tourism, because of its Bronte connections, this little hillside village with its literary shine of Haworth Parsonage accurately reflects the essence of an old Pennine moorland settlement, with its past still tangible in the streets and lanes. The Bronte sisters and their family were only too aware of the pagan traditions and hauntings embedded in the wild surroundings. Emily Bronte, a keen observer of moorland life, wrote that the inhabitants of Haworth had puritanical tendencies. Their code of living embraced a throwback to their Norse ancestors, and their religion did not work downwards into their lives. Her dissolute brother Branwell also knew of the supernatural animals which foretold death, and wrote, "The Gytrash is a spectre, and mostly appears in the form of some animal, a black dog dragging a chain, a dusky calf, nay, even a rolling stone." However, it is Emily, the most famous of the family, who has remained in spirit to haunt Haworth. Her apparition has been seen in many places in the village, most recently in the 1960s at the Weaver's Restaurant, where she appeared to the shop proprietor climbing a long vanished staircase to the bedrooms above. Emily's ghost has also been spotted walking the old packhorse route from Stanbury village to the farmhouse at Top Withens, which is said to be the inspiration for Wuthering Heights. Another track leading to Top Withens, past the Bronte waterfall, is also the haunt of a white lady type of apparition thought to be Emily, not earthbound as are some ghosts, but there are of her own choosing perpetually to wander the moors that she loved. As the Brontes noted, traditional superstitions linger in these wild Pennine Dales, and the old ways of dealing with supernatural phenomenon are still practiced when it becomes necessary. The Old Sun Inn is just metres away from the Bronte parsonage, a typical old coaching inn until you look more closely. Just above the door is a strangely carved stone head. It was placed there in the early 1970s by landlord Rennie Hollings, who had recently bought the inn to lay a ghost. The apparition was an old pack-horse carrier who, dressed in a long leather cloak, had silently haunted the pub for years. Mr. Hollings had heard about the ghost from local people and decided to deal with it in the time-honoured Haworth tradition. Interviewed in the Yorkshire Post, he said, "I don't want to put any of my customers off, because eventually I hope to become residential. Anyway, I found a way to deal with any supposed ghost. I have had a carved stone head erected over the entrance porch. There is a local tradition that these were put on buildings when a workman had been killed on the site before it was completed, and they are supposed to ward off evil spirits." Another Bronte connection exists at Pondon Hall, which was the inspiration for Thrush Cross Grange in Emily's Wuthering Heights. The ghost here is a shapeshifter, said to be sometimes that of a grey-haired, bearded old man who used to appear as a portent of death for the Heaton family who once occupied Pondon Hall. If he was seen at the top of the hill behind the hall with his lantern aloft, or climbing one of the trees in the walled garden, then a death was sure to follow shortly. In its other guise, the ghost appeared as a fiery barrel which rolled down the hill and along a track in front of the hall, stopping at the old beekeeping hive holes. A variety of that strange luminescent phenomenon, will-o'-the-wisp, or Peggy with lanthorn, this fireball was accepted by the local inhabitants, recorded Halliwell Sutcliffe, as coolly as if it were no more than a cow running wild after calving time, or any other usual phenomenon of their lives. In the matter of all ghosts, it was eventually laid. Halliwell Sutcliffe investigated the exorcism and found. They will tell you minutely how it was done. There was a man near Stanbury who understood the black art. They sought his aid, accordingly, against the spectre, and he waited on a certain winter's afternoon until the ghost appeared, in the greybeard's form this time. He lighted a rush candle and read the book of the black art backwards, and held the candle in the phantom's face. The ghost halted in its track, and at being challenged in this fashion, and the wizard finished the job swiftly, saying, "Niver come nigh," I think we're going a bit northern, "Niver come nigh the old house again, till thou'st seen this rushlight burn to th'end. Niver come nigh thou old house again, till thou'st seen this rushlight burning to end." Sorry, North. It's a very weak attempt by a southerner, anyway. And with this, he swallowed the burning candle, ensuring that the ghost could not see it burn out. The spell being complete, the ghost vanished and was rarely seen again. At 457 metres on Crow Hill, I don't know why I said that, at 457 metres on Crow Hill is a solitary standing stone known as the Lad o' Crow Hill. Lad o' Crow Hill. On it are carved the confusing words, Lad o's car on Crow Hill. One version of the legend states that the stone is named after an orphan who was lost and died in the snow while tramping the moors. An argument ensued over whose responsibility the burial was. The parishioners of Stanbury and Haworth, although the body was on their parish, wanted no part of it, and Trawden parishioners were equally reticent to move the corpse. Eventually, Trawden parish took responsibility and at the same time extended its boundaries by erecting the stone. Keighley poet Gordon Bottomley was so entranced by the story that he wrote, "For a grave on the moor, in commemoration of the unknown lad's final resting place. Calmly I lie in heat and cold, in the new year, in the old. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, here I live, I have no lust. Body rest in the upland bleak, forth I go, old friends, to seek." And that is the end of that chapter, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, I hope I didn't insult anybody with my attempt with the Yorkshire accent. And I hope you all enjoyed it. The next one is, I don't know if I've been droning on. I don't know how long I've been talking. West Yorkshire is the next one. I don't know if everybody wants to toddle off now. Yeah, West Yorkshire is the next bit. Have I been droning on for an awfully long time? I don't know what time I started. What do you want to do? Oh, Scotty, hello. Thank you, Lynn. E by gum. Does the belly touch the bum? Does the boobs hang low? Can the tie them in the ball? Thank you, Gillian. Thank you, Jules. Well, Scotty's just joined. So shall I insult with you with my southern accent doing more than? I'm happy to stay, but I only just got here. Keep going. We'll do West Yorkshire, shall we? All right, love. All right, love. Shall we do West Yorkshire? Right, okay. You're right, Chuck. I don't know if that's Yorkshire or not. Okay, West Yorkshire. I'm just going to wiggle my bum. Wiggle my bum on the sofa. Now, I haven't pre-read this. At least with the other one, I pre-read it to know I didn't know how to pronounce the northern words. Thank you, Wi-Fi. Hello, Kaz Kitchen. Hello. Oh, you live in West Yorkshire. Oh, well, while I'm not looking at chat, thank you, Rob. You'll be able to tell people how I've mispronounced everything. West Yorkshire with a Cockney accent, exactly, soldier. It's lovely to see you, Kaz, and I hope that you recognise some of these places. Well, I'm sure you will, but you might not recognise them by my accent, I mean. I hope you do. Right, here we go. So, West Yorkshire. The Three Nuns Hotel is well within bowshot of Kirklees Priory, where Robin Hood is said to have died. And although it is unconnected with the outlaw, during the summer of 1985, it was the focus of a supernatural visitation when renovation uncovered a strange carving of a horned ram's head. Almost immediately, strange things began to happen. Site manager Ian Thompson witnessed unusual phenomenon when he was alone in the pub waiting for a colleague. He heard doors slamming and footsteps going down into the cellar. In an attempt to rationalise this experience, he shouted down into the cellar. Certain another workman must have been there, but received no reply. Shortly afterwards, he heard footsteps ascending the steps and doors once again banged open and shut. Finally, he went to investigate. I went into the cellar. It's always cool down there, but on that occasion there was a strange sort of chill about the place. The crossroads where the A58 trunk road bisects the A641 near Brighouse has been known as Hellfire Corner for many years. The name is often thought to be connected with the numerous serious road accidents which have occurred there, but it was actually known by that name before motor transport in the area was commonplace. Devil names such as Hellfire Corner often occur at locations which have a history of odd happenings, and this spot is no exception, with its spectral headless horsemen and tales of ghost cars appearing immediately prior to accidents. Judy Woods, behind the crossroads, is also plagued by hauntings. Earth Mysteries researcher Paul Bennett was confronted by some children in the woods in 1981 who told him of hideous white shapes floating between the trees. Later the same year, during a wave of UFO sightings, mysterious balls of light were seen flying over and rising from the woods, together with strange craft entering and taking off from the trees. Towards the end of the spate of UFO sightings, a bus crashed at Hellfire Corner, and the driver later blamed the accident on a hovering UFO, which momentarily distracted his concentration before the bus skidded out of control. High Fernley Hall at Wyke, W-Y-K-E. High Fernley Hall at Wyke has a long tradition of strange phenomena, which began during the 18th century when it was occupied by the Bevers brothers, both of whom were besotted by the same girl. After witnessing her marriage to his brother at Kirkheaton Church on the 5th of May 1742, the rejected suitor rode to High Fernley and told the servants that some misfortune was going to befall him, but that he would come again without his head. He then deliberately, but by means unrecorded, beheaded himself, and true to his final words, began to appear every night in the form of a headless horseman. His family left the hall in terror, and it stood empty for many years, with few even daring to pass it at night, until the portion of the hall where the suicide took place was demolished, reducing the building to its present size. The Brown Cow pub at Denham was the scene of a very disturbing haunting in early 1990, when landlord Barry Dittmer and his family became the playthings of a powerful poltergeist-like ghost shortly after taking over the pub. In a litany of ghostly happenings, the Dittmers all experienced room temperatures dropping to freezing point, smells of rotten eggs, tobacco smoke drifting through the rooms, and objects being moved by unseen hands in the beer cellar. Most frightening of all was when Barry Dittmer was thrown through the air by an invisible assailant. Ooh. One attack was observed by barman Don Clancy, who saw the landlord pinned to the floor as if being strangled. In a newspaper interview, Don recalled how he attempted to help his employer. I tried to pull him up, but couldn't. His face was turning blue, and he had indentation marks on his neck. Events became so bad that at one stage the entire family moved out, and the brewery replaced them with a relief landlady. But she too was visited by the poltergeist and left in terror. The brewery took the haunting seriously enough to comment. Obviously, the family is very upset by events, and the brewery has tried contacting various institutes and universities for help, but to no avail. Lindsay John, here you go. Somewhere for you to go. Bolling Hall at Bradford is now a museum, but if its walls could speak, they would tell of a terrible tragedy narrowly averted by a ghost. During the English Civil War, Bradford was largely comprised of Puritans and was under siege, led by the royalist Earl of Newcastle. The Earl was angry because his friend, the Earl of Newport, had been killed while the siege was being laid. As a result, he gave a savage order that his troops should put to the sword every man, woman, and child, without regard to age or distinction whatsoever. But during the night before the massacre, when the Earl was sleeping at Bolling Hall, he was woken 3 times by the bedclothes being pulled from him. Each time he saw a pale, white-clad female spectre who implored him softly to pity poor Bradford. Whether his mind was troubled enough by his draconian order to create an illusion, or whether the spirits of the other world conspired to stop the slaughter, we cannot know. But by morning he had changed his mind, and the people of Bradford were saved. Calverley Hall near Shipley was the home of Walter Calverley during the 16th century. He was a wild, free-living man who slowly squandered the fortune left to him by his father, resulting in creditors and moneylenders closing in on him. This, coupled with the pressure of his jealous wife, seems to have driven him insane in 1604. On 23rd of April of that year, his mind snapped, and he attacked his family, killing 2 of his children and leaving his wife for dead. He then rode off to slaughter his other child, who was staying with a nanny. But before he could carry out further parricide, he was captured and eventually taken for trial at York. His sanity appears to have returned momentarily at the trial, and he refused to plead, an action which ensured his remaining possessions would be passed on to his surviving child, but which earned him a horrible death. The penalty for refusing to plead in those days was French, and I don't know how to pronounce French, peine forte et durée, or death by crushing. Calverley's body was secretly brought back to the churchyard at Calverley to rest amongst his ancestors, but his tormented spirit took to riding through the outskirts of Bradford on a headless steed. The ghost was exorcised by the vicar of Calverley and banished for as long as the hollies grow green at Calverley Wood. But the hauntings continued. The demonologist Eric Maple commented, "The ritual was singularly unsuccessful, which suggests that the rites of exorcism, whilst usually effective in coercing the spirits of sane men, can have little influence or none when the ghost is mad." In a sober but terrifying account, the Reverend Richard Birdsall described how he was visited by the Calverley ghost when he stayed at the hall. Immediately after he dropped off to sleep, he was hurled out of bed by... Oh, how frightening. Sorry. That's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. I can't imagine how frightening that must have been. Immediately, he was held out of bed by an unseen force. This indignity. Oh, come on. This indignity took place twice more, and the clergyman was so frightened that he got up at 1 o'clock and spent the rest of the night in prayer. Oh, poor man. The ghost both terrified and fascinated local inhabitants, and a ritual was devised to call the ghost up. In a manner suggestive of a witch's coven, 12 people would meet near the church and make the shape of a pyramid on the ground with their caps. Following this, they would form a circle and dance round singing, Old Calverley, I have thee by the ears. I'll cut thee into collops, under thee appears. As the rhyme was chanted, breadcrumbs mixed with pins were scattered on the ground, and those who dared would whistle through the church door keyhole. Usually, however, those participating in this rite would flee at its completion rather than wait around to see if they had been successful. East Riddleston Hall on the A560. I don't drive, I don't know road numbers or names. Is that A560, A560, A560? Anyway, East Riddleston Hall on the A560 near Keighley, I think you pronounce it Keighley, is now owned by the National Trust, and it is an excellent example of 17th century architecture and decoration, with the additional attraction of one of the finest medieval barns in Yorkshire. The hall sports more than its fair share of ghosts, with at least 5 apparitions having been seen over the years in either the hall or grounds. The most famous is the Grey Lady, who is seen wafting up and down the corridor, seemingly with no particular purpose or destination. One legend claims that she was a former owner of the hall who was caught with her lover in a somewhat embarrassing situation when her husband returned unexpectedly. In a reworking of this time-worn story, instead of murdering either one outright, the cuckolded husband locked his wife in the bedroom and bricked her lover up alive in a corridor wall. Naturally, they both starved to death, but curiously, only the wife returned to haunt her former love nest, and at least she was in one piece. Her lover is said to appear only as a disembodied head at the window of the wall he was bricked up in, and in support of this tale, a rumour exists that a male skeleton was in fact discovered in the wall many years ago. How horrendous. Bricked up alive. Nothing, however, remains of the Scotsman once murdered here except his ghost. Most often seen near the window over the front porch, accounts vary as to exactly who he was, but most say that he had travelled to Bingley in connection with the wool trade, whereupon he took shelter at the hall in a blizzard. He was given hospitality and eventually shown to his bed in the room situated over the front door. The steward had got wind of the small fortune the Scotsman was carrying, however, and informed his master. Between them they murdered the itinerant Scot during the night. As is often the case, the murder was discovered and the steward was tried and hung at York for the deed in 1790. The master must have pulled the necessary strings, though, as he got off scot-free. Other ghosts include a White Lady apparition, also said to be a previous owner, who vanished while out riding. Some say she was thrown into the Hall's lake where she drowned, as her ghost is most often seen in the vicinity of the pool. The pool is also the spot where a ghostly coachman is sometimes seen, having inadvertently driven his team into a lake. Additionally, a cradle in one of the bedrooms has been seen to rock of its own accord on New Year's Eve. This plethora of ghosts must surely make East Riddleston Hall one of the most haunted dwellings in the whole of Yorkshire. 16th century Rishworth Hall at nearby Bingley hit the headlines in November 1990 when owner Michael White claimed that a curse had befallen his family after they had unearthed a strange stone head in their garden. Following the head's discovery in 1985, the Whites' luck changed dramatically. Alison White was struck down with an unexplained illness which left her weak and debilitated, and her husband's building business later collapsed. In desperation, they gave the head to a skeptical friend, only to be dismayed when he went bankrupt shortly afterwards. Then the Whites' two daughters began to experience ghostly phenomena in their bedroom, and Mrs. White encountered a disembodied hand just as she was preparing to switch off an upstairs light. Ooh. These events led to the Whites to try to sell the old hall in an attempt to change their luck, and the story of the haunted head came to the media's attention, featuring in many regional newspapers. The head was also put up for sale by auctioneers, who claimed it almost certainly originated in Celtic Britain. Carved stone heads featured strongly in the folklores of northern England, but rather than bringing bad luck, they were usually carved to avert it. When informed of this, Mr. White was unimpressed, saying, "If it is supposed to have brought good luck, goodness knows what would have happened to us if it was supposed to bring bad luck. The mouth on the head is carved in the shape of a smile, but I always thought it was an evil sneer." Despite, or perhaps because of, the publicity gained by the Stonehead's exposure in the press, the Whites failed to sell the hall and their luck remained unchanged. Even the carved head only raised £180 at auction, well below the hoped-for £300. But there was quite a twist in the tale of this particular ghost story. Following the newspaper stories, a Halifax woman contacted the Yorkshire Post and told them that the Celtic head had in fact been carved in 1978 by her father William Hodgson, a previous occupant of Rishworth Hall. He buried the head beneath a sycamore tree in the garden, telling his daughter it would confuse future archaeologists. Mrs. Jones was highly amused by the White story and dismissed all supernatural connections with the head, commenting that her father would be sitting on his cloud rocking with laughter. The auctioneers were equally shocked, a stunned spokesman for the Harrogate office saying, "Carved in 1978? How awful." How awful that the actual age and origin of the head had no bearing whatsoever on the subsequent stories shows a great deal about how ghost stories and legends develop. The crucial thing was what was believed about the head, and that, coupled with wishful thinking, autosuggestion, and fear, did the rest. From the first day Gwen Morley came to work at Keighley wool mill in 1925, the looms began to break down for no reason at all. Things became so bad that on the 4th of November, the mill manager was called in to investigate. He had mechanics check the machines, but still they mysteriously broke down until, that is, Gwen was removed from the room. The events came to the attention of the mill owner, who summoned Gwen to see him in a room containing fully operative singing jennies. The hard-nosed Yorkshireman was astonished at what took place. As Gwen walked towards him through a gap in the frames, hands in pockets so there could be no chicanery, all the wool ends snapped as she passed. Still doubting, the owner sent Gwen into another room which was spinning heavier yarns, but again the ends snapped and the machine once more ground to a halt. Gwen Morley seems to have been one of the people who possesses what writer Charles Fort named wild talents, the ability to affect machinery and the outside world in some supernatural way. Mystified, but more interested in profit than the paranormal, the mill owner banned Gwen from working in the spinning sheds and she was moved to the kitchens. This made no difference to her newfound abilities, and the canteen was constantly disturbed by moving pans, falling crockery, and shifting tables whenever Gwen was present. Over a 3-day period in April 1925, 23 separate unexplained incidents were recorded, and she was sent home from work. The name Cottingley may ring some bells in the minds of travellers who see it signposted on the A650 road from Bradford, and so it should, for the tiny village was the scene excuse me. The tiny village was the scene of one of the most puzzling episodes in the history of the paranormal. It began in the spring of 1917 when cousins Francis Griffiths and Elsie Wright started to pester their family with tales of fairies at the bottom of the garden. In an adult effort to demonstrate that fairies really don't exist, Elsie's father gave her a camera and told her to prove it. No one was more shocked than he when 13-year-old Elsie and 10-year-old Francis brought the camera back with one photograph plate depicting Elsie surrounded by the little people. Other fairy photographs were taken in the dell at Cottingley, and the case became a worldwide sensation involving the paranormal investigator and Sherlock Holmes author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who pronounced the photographs authentic. Controversy raged over the years as to just how genuine they were, but no one could prove conclusively that they were a hoax. Throughout that time, the cousins stuck to their original claim that the fairies were real. Eventually, due to the persistence of investigator Joe Cooper, the case was solved. There are things you should know, Francis told him in a 1981 telephone call, and he travelled to her home in Ramsgate, where she revealed that the photographs had been faked, using cut-out figures attached to bushes by hairpins. Such a simple technique had fooled experts for over 60 years. It was all over, or was it? Despite the end of the case being trumpeted in the Times as Cottingley fairies, a fake, woman says, the now triumphant skeptics missed something crucial in their self-congratulatory backslapping. Although the cousins were now prepared to come clean as to how they had fooled the world, they were in dispute between themselves about the fifth picture, which Francis claims to show a genuine fairy. The rest of the photographs were seemingly faked to prove to adults that fairies did really exist. But even after the hoax disclosures in the early 1980s, the cousins insisted they had really seen fairies at the Dell in Cottingley all those years ago. The fairy tale does not end there. Others have come forward in support of Elsie and Francis to say that they too have seen fairies in the woods at Cottingley, and a carved stone was the focus for yet another fairy visitation at Cottingley. As 19-year-old Anne Freeman passed the impressive but little-known Bronze Age cup and ring-carved boulder known as the Fairy Stone, she rested for a while on a stile. Her rest was almost immediately disturbed by loud chattering from beneath her feet in a cleft between two rocks. The unintelligible jabbering came from two denizens of the fairy world, each 25 centimetres tall and dressed, as Anne put it, in what looked like medieval peasant dress. As she stared in wonder, the red-clad elementals ducked under the rocks and were gone. Hawksworth Hall, to the northeast of Cottingley, was once visited overnight by James I. The old hall has had 3 ghosts in the course of its checkered history. One, the spirit of a long-dead Negro servant or page boy, was wont to creep into visitors' bedrooms whilst they slept to leave the imprint of his hand on their pillow. As is traditional with most old halls, a grey lady haunted the corridors, in this instance causing a nuisance by leaving doors open, and there are rumours that the faceless figure of a hooded monk had been seen walking in the halls and its grounds. Excuse me. Kirkstall Abbey at Leeds has legends of ghosts and of a supernatural treasure garden. The abbey was built in 1152 by monks of the Cistercian order and was eventually left to decay during the dissolution of the monasteries in 1540. The original gatehouse, which stands across the main road, is now the abbey's museum, home also to a ghostly abbot and poltergeist-like noises. In the 17th century, a farmer working in fields near the abbey took a walk around the ruins in his lunch break. During these wanderings, he discovered a hole in the ground, which he had not previously seen. Cautiously, he entered the hole, which widened into a passage, leading him under the abbey to a vast subterranean room. The room was illuminated by a roaring fire, and in the far corner stood a black stallion, behind which the farmer could just make out a huge wooden chest surmounted by a black cockerel. Sensing that there would be treasure in the chest, he made a grab for the lid. But as he did so, the cockerel screeched, and he was felled by a blow to the head. When he came round, the room had gone, and he was lying stunned on the abbey's lawns. The legend seems to suggest that the room only existed in the farmer's mind, and he entered it during some form of altered state of consciousness at what could be a power spot. This is a location where earth energies, perhaps in the form of a magnetic anomaly, are strong enough to affect the human mind. Among the underground passages rumoured to exist beneath the abbey, one is said to run beneath the city variety theatres on the Hedgerow in the centre of Leeds, home of the famous television show The Good Old Days. Originally part of the White Swan pub, it became transformed into the North's leading music hall during the 1860s. It was rumoured that King Edward VII gave it his patronage in 1898, but in disguise when he came to see his paramour, Lily Langtry, who was appearing there. Music hall legend alleges that the coat of arms above the proscenium arch was given by the amorous king after his visit. Visitors, staff, and actors at the theatre have reported 3 ghosts over the years. One thought to be an actress was seen by television producer Len Martin, who was accidentally locked in the theatre overnight. As she appeared in the room where he was dozing, the temperatures plummeted, and the producer shouted in terror when he saw her, causing the apparition to fade away into the fire. She was also seen by theatre-goer Elsie Cromwell, who came across the ghost in the ladies' room just as the theatre was closing in 1921. Thinking she was just another member of the audience, Elsie began to chat about the evening show to the figure who were hunched over a wash basin. Receiving no answer to her question about the night show, Elsie tapped the woman on the shoulder and almost fainted as her hand went straight through the old-fashioned clothing and onto the basin. Elsie said, "As I gasped for breath, the figure turned and I could see straight into her eyes. She had a sad, pained expression, and before I could do anything, she walked past me and straight through the wall. The room was absolutely ice cold and I was terrified." Temple Newsom House, known as the Hampton Court of the North, and originally owned by the mysterious Knights Templars, is no longer inhabited, but is now a museum and art gallery attracting thousands of visitors a month. Its ghosts, no doubt, carry on haunting regardless, but when it was inhabited, they were all seen on a regular basis. The famous writer of ghost stories, Lord Halifax, actually lived at the hall until the 1920s, and personally witnessed the Blue Lady in 1908 when she walked across his firelit bedroom and through the wall into the adjoining damask dressing room. Besides the ghostly screams emanating from the Red Room and the sounds of heavy objects being dragged across the floor from bedroom number 4, the house is home to a ghostly infant who pops out from a cupboard, a ghostly Knight Templar and a ghost mist which inhabit the long gallery and can take the form of a variety of humans. Leeds is justly famous for its medical school, but probably few of the students are aware of the origins of one of the skeletons preserved there, that of the witch Mary Bateman. Whether or not she was actually a witch is open to conjecture, but Bateman made a handsome living tricking people out of their money. Her most famous ruse was displaying a hen which laid eggs inscribed with the words, "Christ is coming," but her skullduggery was eventually to be her downfall. In 1809, she inadvertently poisoned Rebecca Perigo, one of her clients, with a magic potion, and was tried and hanged at York for murder. As was the custom, the body was later brought back to her hometown and gibbeted. Ghoulish locals took pieces of her skin to use as good luck charms before the medical school claimed her skeletal remains. When Leeds was less built up and the countryside encroached onto the town, the ubiquitous ghost dog was common in the area. Locally, it was known as Padfoot. In 1866, folklorist William Henderson described the Leeds Padfoot as about the size of a small donkey, black, with shaggy hair and large eyes like saucers, and it follows people by night or waylays them in the road which they have come to pass. The locals regarded it with terror, often staying at home on wild windy nights to avoid encountering the creature, a meeting with which would ensure a forthcoming death. Sally Dranfield from Leeds came to have seen it on numerous occasions, rolling along the ground before her like a woolpack, sometimes vanishing suddenly through a hedge. Lum Hall, a 17th century house, here we go, Drylington, Drighlington, Drylington. So, Lamb Hall, a 17th century house at Drylington between Bradford and Leeds, stands back off the road, almost hidden by trees. However, if you walk up the narrow road at the side, it is possible to gain a view of the outside and see a carved stone head above the door. It is not known whether the head was put there to lay the ghost which had been seen and heard at the hall, but Charlie, as the Oh, Mr. Page, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to read that again because I've lost it. However, if you walk up the narrow road at the side, it is possible to gain a view of the outside and see a carved stone head above the door. It is not known whether the head was put there to lay the ghost which had been seen and heard at the hall, but Charlie, as the unearthly occupant is known, is fond of trying to attract attention by making a shuffling noise at the front door. Previous owners of the hall soon tired of finding no one there when they went to investigate, and eventually learned to ignore the attention-seeking ghost. Ghost hunter C.T. Oxley, in his book Haunted North Country, relates an experience in which the sister of the hall's owner awoke one night to see a cloaked apparition rising through the air and up through the ceiling. It was later discovered there had once been a staircase to the room above. The cloaked spectre was assumed to have been an English Civil War ghost, and this theory was further strengthened in 1948 when a number of swords and weapons from that troubled period of history were discovered behind a wall panel. Oakwell Hall near Birstall dates from Tudor times and was used by Charlotte Bronte as a model for Fieldhead in her novel Shirley. On the 30th of December 1684, it was the scene of a crisis apparition when the Bat family saw their son William ride up to the hall and, without speaking, rush up to the main bedroom, whereupon he vanished, leaving only a bloody footprint as evidence of his passing. His family were later informed that he had been murdered that very day in Barnet, London, and it was his ghost at the time of death that they had witnessed. How a ghost can leave a bloody footprint is anyone's guess, but the mark remains to this day, and Bat's ghost has been seen stalking the hall and gallery in an agitated state. In the churchyard of St. Peter's at Birstall grows a thorn tree, said to be a Glastonbury thorn, a direct descendant of the holy thorn at Glastonbury, which flowers on Christmas Day. The original thorn sprang up when Joseph of Arimathea was given a sermon on the birth of Christ and stuck his staff into the ground in affirmation of his religious faith. The staff immediately became a tree and flowered henceforth every Christmas Day from then on. The thorn in the churchyard at Birstall is recorded as having flowered on Christmas Day in 1782. Nearby Horbury also had its ghost dog, one account of which tells what it must have been like to encounter the supernatural terror. One Horbury man saw the dog and, in terror, struck at it, and the stick passed through it. Then the white dog looked at him, and it had great saucer N, E''E''N, and he was so flayed that he ran home trembling and went to bed, where he fell ill and died. And that's the end of that chapter, and it's Ilkley next. So again, I apologise for any mispronunciations. I hope everybody enjoyed that, and I haven't bored you all. I hope if you're falling to sleep, you've fallen asleep, and I've lulled you into a nice sleep without anything scary in your mind. And let's see what the big, oh gosh, just over an hour. I hope you don't mind, I'm going to have a puff. I even learned about the rose which haven't told my great niece she went to sometimes teach that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you.
Hey.
As a southerner, you are my representative.
Hang on, Yo-Yo, I'm going to get feedback. Just give me a minute.
Can you hear me?
Volume down. That's it. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How was the northern? I hope I didn't offend all the northern people.
You didn't offend anybody. That was bloody amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everybody.
Amazing feedback for you, Yo-Yo, and they can't wait for you to do it again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Gillian. I've just seen your comment. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Jules. Kaz has asked, so is Alton Hall as well haunted now? It's a restaurant. Thank you, Claire.
I would have said so, Kaz. If it's haunted, then yeah, it's going to be haunted. It doesn't matter what the place is; it's still there. So yeah, how did you find reading it, Yo-Yo? Do you know when you're reading it and like you were laughing at that part where it...
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Scotty. I'm so sorry.
That was so funny because you've not read this book.
Thank you, Diana. People are being ever so kind to me. Thank you, everybody.
Because you've not read the book prior. It was so funny.
The first one where I did, the first bit, I'd read that and I thought, right, I'm going to get to grip with these words. And the second one, I thought, oh my God. And I could see, you know how you see a word before you speak it? I thought, but that bloke got, I mean, this is no disrespect to anybody. It must have been awful, but being thrown out of the bed, I've just got to fit the giggles.
I know you did. But I love it because you know when you're reading something that you've not read before and you're reading it out loud, the funny parts hit you and you do get the giggles. But everybody enjoyed your laugh.
Scotty there laughing at some poor guy.
It was so good.
Gillian, thank you. I haven't offended Gillian. That's good. Thank you, Nanny Lynn. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Kaz.
Oh dear.
Thank you for allowing me to do it, Lindsay.
Listen, there's going to be more of Yo-Yo to come. Definitely more of Yo-Yo to come. The poor bloke, says Scotty.
I just the way
she's happy.
And because I hadn't read it before, I couldn't have my laugh before. If I'd read it before, I'd have read it more sympathetically.
I can't laugh. I'm trying to laugh quietly because the kids are.
Can you imagine lying in bed and being fluffy? Oh, I don't want to wake up the children.
I got jaw-ache.
Yes, Diana, exactly. You do get a picture.
Exactly.
Oh, Claire, don't be daft. Don't be daft. Oh dear.
Story time definitely with Yo-Yo, and there will be other books that and storylines that Yo-Yo is going to take. Some she's going to make of her own choice. she will find books of her own choosing to read.
Because I thought you were going to say then, Lindsay, something she's going to write herself. I thought.
If you want to do that also, you may do that.
Because earlier Michelle said, didn't she? She got a book on angels.
Yes, Michelle's going to bring it across for us as well. So that'll be good because we can borrow that and we can have a look at doing angel books. So if we do this
to whisper now because of the children.
Why are you whispering? It's me that's loud in bedroom, not you, nutter.
Can they not hear me?
No, the volume's turned down, but they can hear me because I'm in the same house, you silly woman. Oh dear, you'll be on a high now, Yo-Yo. She definitely will.
Oh.
I thought she was going to say that too. Yeah, Yo-Yo's good at writing stories, though. Yo-Yo is very good at writing stories, and I am hopefully when Yo-Yo's got time on her hands, she will do a story just for us at ETA.
Maybe I'll do an ETA story. I could bring in the characters, couldn't I? Thank you, Gillian. I adore you too.
You could base the characters.
I thought she was going to say that. Yeah, thank you, Soldier. I thought she was going to as well.
You could base your characters on mods and people in chat.
I could, couldn't I?
You could, yeah.
Mind you, the trouble is, if I don't include somebody, I could offend, so maybe I shouldn't do anybody.
Or just base it on us and mods, because then nobody can get face on them. Yeah. Nobody can be upset that they're not brought into it. But then again, you could use some characteristics of certain people and not tell them it's them.
Yeah. Well, if I mention the word coconut, we all know who that will be, don't we?
Yeah.
We're haunted by a lunatic coconut flying around.
Guys, oh God, I should be scared if I get included. Be scared, Scotty. Be very scared.
Scotty, the mad scientist with his computer.
Exactly. There you go. You've got one there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one character coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, but Yo-Yo, thank you so much for tonight.
You're welcome.
Tonight, if you wanted to stop on longer, you're more than welcome to. If you want to end it, you're more than welcome to. I said to Rob, but I didn't realise Rob were upstairs, we'll end it tonight, but next time when we go live, what I'll do is when you're ready to end it, you just say, and I'm going to bring Lindsay on, because then that's the cue then for me to come on instead of just...
Oh, okay. Well, I thought maybe one night we could, because now that we've linked in, I'm a nocturne, as you know, and if there are any nocturnes out there, we could maybe have a chat one night. I don't know if Claire would want to join us.
The Nocturnes Club.
Nanny Lynn, yeah.
And we could actually look at. I know Nanny Lynn's up
late.
I
tell you something.
Late. I know that there's a mixture of people in chat that will be up late and nocturnal creatures like us. It'd be good. We'll work out and come on and probably could do a late night.
I've got to tell you something though.
Scott is slowly becoming less of a nocturne.
Don't get out of it, Scotty. Don't get out. No, you're not. You can join us. I know you're a nocturne. Exactly. You're the only other person, Scotty, that didn't know there was a 7 o'clock in the morning.
Claire's put a girly knock night. Yes,
that would be brilliant, Claire. Yeah, and Jules, look.
Yeah.
Everybody's a nocturne. Nanny Lynn.
Yeah, everybody's still a nocturne.
Gillian, bless her, stayed awake, sent me a message and said she was going to stay awake, which is very sweet.
Bless you, Gillian.
She's a little darling. But you know what was funny? When I started reading, because Rob's gone upstairs to listen. Well, I didn't know he was going upstairs to listen. I thought he's going, and I'm sitting there reading, and I think I can bloody hear Rob. He's got his bloody television on. I'm going up there. It was me I could do. Listening to me.
Hearing your own voice.
Yeah, Joe Maxine. We're all hands up for the nocturnes. We can have a nocturne night.
I still don't know about the other 7. Still don't know about the other 7.
Exactly, Scott. And apparently, Scott, it's not just there's a 7 in the morning. There's an 8 in the morning, and a night there's 2 8 o'clocks, and there's 2 9 o'clocks.
Who knew? John says to Mike, he says, you come on. He says, as soon as Yolanda come on, he says, you were off like a whippet. He says, you just threw her in at deep end. I went, I didn't. He went, Lindsay, she come on, she spoke, and she hadn't even let us saw why you left her on the screen.
Oh, they've got hands up from Kaz as well.
I apologise. I apologise for just disappearing.
That's all right, you nutter. I'll remember that, Lindsay.
Oh, dear. Scotty says he sees to 8 when he's at college. Claire says there's only one 6 o'clock. Depends whether I'm a nocturnal that night. I know, Diana. Do you know, I think we're all the same. I think some nights we like, I'll say I'm going to come live, and the next minute I fell asleep and I'll wake up at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning and I'll think I can't go live at this time. Nobody's going to be awake. So I end up coming and sitting in the office, whereas though now I can send links out and get everybody in.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could do an be in bed with Yo-Yo. You could buzz me up and I'd have my babe in bed, my dressing gown on. What?
Be in bed with Yo-Yo. Should we call that the live stream? Should we call that the live stream? Be in bed with Yo-Yo. Sure, Rob would be happy.
You'd have to give me warning though, because I don't sleep with anything on. Can you imagine?
Oh, darling.
That'd be the one night I did go to sleep. I'd be slapping away. What?
Oh,
there'll be people in chat. Who's Lindsay talking to? I'll crawl out of my pit. Oh, Claire's in bed. Oh, does Scotty know? Gillian's just said, does Scotty know we have electricity?
Oh, dear, that would be crazy.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, we will. We'll call the live in bed with Yo-Yo.
In out of bed like a yo, exactly.
In bed with Yo-Yo and a disgusted look by Rob.
Rob would be watching and I'd be lobbing things at him because it'd be disturbing me. It'd be weird listening. Honestly, he's up because the bedroom's up there. And I could hear this voice talking, and I thought, you're giving me the hump. And I'm reading, and my thought bubble's saying, turn that fucking volume, excuse my language, turn that fucking volume down. You listening to me?
Are you listening to me? Who's that woman Rob's listening to upstairs? Oh, God. Active with Yo-Yo, yeah. Strike one, Yo-Yo.
Oh, God.
Strike one.
Strike one. That's Lindsay's fault.
Don't blame me for your language. Oh, dear. You should join a chit chat one day. It would be an amazing laugh. Definitely, Scotty. Definitely. These are things we have been actually talking about and getting into play. 2 strikes. She repeated it. You repeat. That weren't my fault.
Yeah, Lindsay's fault. Lindsay made me.
Made her repeat it.
Yeah. Oh, look, Dinah's put up language, Timothy. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Sorry, that was Ronnie Corbett, wasn't it? Oh, God.
Language, Timothy.
Yeah. I tell you what, we're not having a swear box. I banned swear boxes. Yeah, I can't afford a swear box.
No. It's just the roll of the tongue, Yo-Yo. It just comes out. You don't even know you're saying it.
Exactly. It's affectionate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Always blame Lindsay. Yeah.
Always blame Lindsay. Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like we've got a few people as well that would like a Knox and Nocturnal Chats.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't have to be about the paranormal, does it?
Look what Rob's put.
Shut up, turn your volume down, you yob. That's anyone on Facebook is wondering what's going on. Rob, my partner.
Rob's just a stranger.
Somebody that lives in my house. This man lives in my house. Rob is on YouTube for anyone not on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Rob's on YouTube and he's just put unbelievable. He's just heard what I've said about him.
Right. We are going to call it a night, guys, but we will definitely be back on. We will definitely do a chit chat. We will do a late night one. We'll probably do a Tuesday night chit chat as well. It's nice because obviously Yolanda is one of moderators. We've got Claire who comes out and moderates as well, but Claire's mainly out ghost hunting with us when we're all better and well and everything else. We've got other moderators that I'm sure would love to come on and have a chit chat, and I'm sure that a lot of you in chat would love to come on as well and chit chat with us live on screen. So we might even do that one Tuesday, do an open chit chat and have like some teaming and let you guys come in and pick the brain.
And Steve's got some New Zealand stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah. Steve, yeah, he has. He's got some amazing stuff from New Zealand. So yeah. From my bed, all you hear is Afi snoring. There's no wonder I don't get sleep. I bet my new neighbours will get moving next door.
Claire.
Scott is still in hiding.
Well, we know when you've got your lives, haven't you? Is there a spare ticket? Is there 2 spare tickets?
Which one? Which one?
Anyone?
The Ashbourne one is sorted, and that's a yes.
2.
2 for Ashbourne, yes.
Right.
So the two are yours. So yeah, you'll not be in hiding long because Yolanda's coming.
Won't be hiding long, mate. I'll see you then. We've got Gillian's hubby snoring. We've got Claire's hubby snoring.
And you got me that snores.
Rob snores like a. You know what we could do to them when we do a light night one? We could take our internet in and get them on camera, couldn't we? Do them snoring.
Now, if I did that to John, you wouldn't. John doesn't snore. John does this right little. It's not. It's like a. You know, like when they breathe like a bit heavy. Yeah, John just does this like breathing heavy. He doesn't actually do a full blown snore. I do a full blown snore. Can't wait for Ashbourne.
Do you, Lindsay?
Oh, I can't at all. You what, love?
I said, do you, Lindsay?
You bird.
Oh, Diana's dogs are snoring.
No,
we could have a snore off, couldn't we, on one of them?
But yeah,
record snoring.
You what?
Record snoring.
Snoring, yeah.
Snowwatch, Joe just said.
You know, I want to call it
on our nocturnal shenanigans.
Ashbourne will be amazing because Ashbourne, we had a few things last time when we were in Ashbourne, and that one that's really going to be good. I mean, we're all going to split up in Ashbourne, because I think we're going to split up into like 2 different teams at first. So one can work one floor, one can work other floor, and then we can sort of like later on at night, if people want to do their own little experiments and stuff, they can do that as well. So Ashbourne's going to be absolutely amazing. I think Scott is going to be behind camera though. I don't know. He might not. He might go in front of it for that night. We'll just call him a different name so nobody recognises him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Jill said that she wants to come. Soldier, did you see Soldier's comment?
I would love to join when you're going to ghost hunting. I know. With Soldier's comment,
Jules, that'd be lovely. And for Gillian,
my bottom must be asleep because it's. Come on one of these. Oh, you're gonna have to, Jules. Honestly, it's amazing. And the thing is, when we do them, we don't do it. It's not like a massive group of people either, where it's all strangers that are coming. We do them, and we do it for you, for you guys. We do it for you guys.
Do it for you guys. Bring your torch. You might see a human
down that route. Yeah,
you might see some fire extinguishers on this ghost hunt.
You never know. We could do. We could see a few. Yeah, we did. We had that we did have that EVP, which I'd call it were an intelligent one. And it were really weird because we tried to debunk it and we thought we debunked it, but then when we actually look back at footage, you just could, yeah. But I mean the history and the paranormal side to the Ashbourne one is out of this world. Like I said, when you go in the room that we stay in downstairs where everybody can leave the bags and we have a cup of tea, there is sightings in that room. But because it's used as sort of like a base room where in Diana, where you can leave all your stuff and that. But the walls round, it shows you the full history of what happened in Ashbourne. and what happened with the town hall and stuff like that. It's honestly, it's going to be amazing that night. It really is. It's going to be a good one, and it's not long because it's on 5th. So
Well, I've just noticed Gillian wants to join as well.
Yeah. Like I said, what we could do is we can have a look at some places at hiring. The only trouble is, though, with a lot of them, there is a few stairs.
Do you know what, Lindsay? Do you know what? I know we're talking about paranormal investigation, but maybe what we could do is we could just, it doesn't have to be a paranormal investigation, just meet everybody, you know, just have a little party. It could be in the summer, we could go, everyone bring a picnic. You know how they do parties in the park?
Yeah.
But it could be an ETA party in the park, couldn't it? Maybe.
Everybody bring your ghost stuff.
Yeah.
We'll sit in big circles and we'll do his stuff.
We could do that, an ETA party in the park.
We can sort something out. I'm sure there'll be a place that we can investigate that actually has no cost.
Yeah.
There's places like Sherwood Forest that we could all meet up, and
that would be amazing. What a brilliant idea.
There's like those woods in Birmingham with black-eyed children, or we could, for people that are close to it, we could look for different places. Like in Gloucester, there's a couple of woods in Gloucester. And I know that it's Forest of Dean that you can go in and you can have a walk around. It's just finding them with the paths, make sure that the paths are flat, and then people that need to bring the mobility scooters, the wheelchairs, the whatever.
It is, Diana. It is going to be live. Are you talking about Ashbourne, Diana? Diana's asked you a question.
It's going to be like, yes, they're going to be, it'll be live. Obviously there'll be those that are joining. Some of them will be live as well, or they may be doing it might have to be pre-recorded that they do, rather than a live, because obviously there's certain people, and I'm not just talking about Scotty, but there is certain people that are there that don't want to be caught on camera. Whereas though, if we're doing the filming, we know to avoid them, whereas if other people get them on camera, they can, if it's a pre-record, they can remove them from camera, because not everybody does want to be seen on camera, and some people just want to come across for just being on investigation. So but no, they'll all be live.
I remember when I first joined you, Lindsay, and it's so obvious where you and John have got the camera, but if you don't want to be in camera, it's very easy just to, if you stay behind you and John, you're not going to be on camera. So if you wanted to avoid it, you can.
You can easily avoid it. That's what I'm saying. So what we'll have to do is, if anybody is filming, those behind they'll have to film in front. Those behind the camera, they get to stay off camera then, and then it's their choice. So yeah, we can with that, we'll have to sort out and make sure everybody's above board with that. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. But yeah, Scotty's saying about that EVP. We thought we debunked it, and it was the Ovulus, but we checked back. But you check back on the obvious history and it didn't say anything remote like I can't. That's the good thing when you're using things like the Ovulus, even the Paratech. You can look back at at what's been said prior. So if you think you've heard something and you've been using them, you can actually look back and see what words come out. So that's right interesting. I might be brave and do a lone vigil. Might be Claire. In which place? I'm just going to put you in a cell.
Oh, that would be brave.
I'm put you in a cell, Claire, and I'm going to lock you in, and then just leave you for half an hour doing your lone vigil. Wait a candle. By candlelight, you're not allowed to do it, or by matchstick.
I'll be right behind you, Claire, in my bed, watching you on the tab. I'll have my torch.
Oh dear. We'll have us torches.
Yeah, it'd be lovely, Gillian.
Didn't you do a lone vigil at the Derby? I did, Scott. I did do a lone vigil at Derby Jail. I quite enjoyed that. I'm not sure if anything, I can't even remember if anything happened while I were in room. But yeah, I don't mind doing a lone vigil when I'm in a secure location. I just don't want to do a lone vigil so we're in woods on his own. I don't want to go and do out in open. I don't want to go and do it. Even though I know John won't be far from me, it's different doing it outside than doing it when you're indoors, because at least you know you're indoors. Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
I can't remember you doing that, Lindsay. Was that before my time?
Derby
When you did your own vigil? When did you do that?
It might have been. I don't know, because I think we did. I think we actually went live on Facebook and YouTube, but we sort of like. I think John did YouTube and I did Facebook, or other way around. And some of it we did separately, and then we ended. I think we ended the one on YouTube. I think the signal weren't strong enough, but yeah, Derby got it was just before you joined. Yeah, it were just before you joined us.
So that must be about 2 years ago you did that then.
Probably. I think it were the first year that we got started. You know, I think it were within first 6 months of us getting started. We did quite a few paid locations. So yeah, it'll be then. But yeah. So Yolanda, you stay where you are. I just want to say a big thank you to everybody joining us tonight. I hope you do get some sleep. Why would you want to do a lone vigil, you daft sod? Isn't it scary? It's not actually, soldier. It's not that scary. But like I said, inside's better than outdoors. Yeah, of the living being. Exactly.
Before you sign out, Lindsay, can I just say to everybody, thank you so much for joining tonight. I really appreciate everybody joining and being so kind to me in the comments. I know I couldn't see your comments, but when I looked up, you were all saying well done. Thank you. I really appreciate your support. That's very kind. And thank you, Lindsay and John, for letting me do it.
Oh no, you're welcome.
Derby Jail was December.
Was December 11th, 2019. That's when we did Derby Jail.
Said she'd do a lone vigil.
What I might do is I might see if John can re-download that and put it up on Facebook. Re-put it up on Facebook and YouTube. And then we'll try and watch that. We can be in chat with you lot and watch it. So yeah. Okay. So good night, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thanks, Yo-Yo. I'll let you say your last good night before I end the broadcast.
Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. All sleep well.
Take care. Oh.